Well, good afternoon. Oh, this is way too short. Well, welcome to Irrational Thought. Today is the first of what I hope to be something that turns into, something realistically acceptable. First things first. Hi, everybody. This is our first serious topic or serious subject. Uh, First thing I'd like to address is just exactly what is Memorial Day. Because it would appear that, well, if you don't think today is about partying, that it is an appropriate day to go thank a vet for their service. As a veteran, as a combat veteran, what I will, or what I would like to remind you all, is that, Veterans Day is our day. Today is a day to reflect and remember on our brothers and sisters that didn't come home. So it's a pretty solemn day for those of us that have worn the uniform. So while we appreciate you telling us, hey, happy Memorial Day, today's not a happy day for us. Uh, just try and keep that in mind. Okay, on to bigger, better, and much more fun things. I saw a video a few days ago. It was one of those self-help videos on veterans benefits and how to get help. And anyway, the topic of the conversation that gentleman was having, he was talking about it was a side topic that came up with talking about Mr. Harrell, who was the or is the founder of Veterans Club of America, uh, being prosecuted and convicted of stealing government benefits, which I think is complete and utter horseshit, by the way. Uh, but one of these days we'll get into that one. In that conversation, they quoted a retired Navy SEAL, Mr. S. I won't name him by name because, well, I'm not really here looking to dig a frickin' hole for this guy. But he's put out a few videos slamming content creators for creating content on YouTube, Spotify, and all of the other places. Hey, if you do this and claim this, you can get this percentage increased on your your VA disability. And if you can get to so many percent, if you file this paper and this paper and this paper, that you can probably get an IU or an individual unemployability. And Mr. S was, boy, he was really ramrodding those folks. And in his words, gaming the system. Well, let's establish a couple of things right up front. Get this, lifeguard, you're full of shit. I notice how you were awful quick to talk about people gaming the system, but you completely ignored the system gaming people. Ten, 15, almost 20 years ago, when I filled out my first application for VA benefits, as I was directed to do so by the separation counselors at Fort Leonard Wood when I came home from Iraq the last time. They shook my hand, welcomed me home, thanked me for my service, and then told me, and I quote, see the VA for health care. So I did. And it was 1 or 2 pages. And after I filled out the application, a couple of weeks go by and I get a letter in the mail. This is this is the date of my appointment, and these are the benefits that I qualify for. It was real simple. It was real cut and dry. And over the last several years, it's morphed into this multi-headed monster that there is just no end in sight. Veteran service officers 20 years ago, it was their job to help you fill out your paperwork, help you gather evidence, help you establish what you did or didn't do and what you may or may not qualify for. And they kind of tried to help you make sure that you were getting the things you were supposed to get. Not so much anymore. Today, they're more akin to being tour guides. And for every silly little thing that comes up in the VA system, there's a new application for it. And that original application, it's no longer 1 or 2 pages. It can be 10 or 15. And the truth is the evidentiary standards for VA veterans benefits versus, say, Social Security is 3 times as high. It requires, VA benefits. It requires sworn statements, and not just treatment records or not just a statement from a doctor. You have to have sworn statements from your chain of command and from people that you served with that were witness to the incidents or the injuries. And you have to establish, like if you get a rating for PTSD, not only do you have to have statements and treatment records from clinical psychologists, but also from licensed therapists. And you have to be able to establish a long-term issue that just doesn't go away. Contrary to popular belief, that doesn't mean you're crazy. It means, I heard a therapist once say that PTSD was a normal mind's normal reaction to an abnormal circumstance. And I can agree with that. Anyway, we're starting to get into the weeds here. Mr. S, you wanted to talk about all that stuff. In fact, you specifically cited a report issued by the Office of the Inspector General of the Veterans Healthcare Administration that this really low number, it was a single digit. I think it was actually less than 1%, but I'm not quite positive on that, so I won't really get too far into that one. But suffice it to say, here you are in your videos talking about how you believe the number is closer to 50%. And you're basing that assumption on all of these people running around who are claiming this to get this and claiming that to get that, based on somebody on a YouTube video that they saw. Hey, if you go and you talk to your doctor and you complain about tinnitus, you can get an extra 10%. Well, the fallacy in your statement there, sir, is that if you have tinnitus and you served long-term in the United States military, like me and a lot of people I know, chances are you do have tinnitus. And chances are, if it didn't start in the military, it was seriously aggravated in the military. Because now you know as well as I do, we don't stop in the middle of an ambush and say, now, wait a minute, Mr. Bad Guy, let me put my fucking earplugs in. That's insanity. And what's even worse is those things aren't assumptions. The VA doesn't automatically make the assumption that if you have severe arthritis, that it might have or likely was aggravated by military service. Or if you have hearing loss, that it was either caused by or aggravated by your military service. And that's insanity. The fact that we have a system that has propagated and created a need for people to create videos and put them on YouTube. Hey, if you do this, this is the potential outcome for that. The fact that we have that system is ludicrous. That wasn't the deal. When you signed your enlistment papers, when I signed mine, we essentially wrote a blank check to the government and the people of the United States of America, up to and including payable with our lives. And the deal was, is if we did this and we served honorably, yeah, we would get paid. It'd be kind of like a job. We'd get health care, we'd get housing, we'd get 3 hots and a cot and the whole spiel while we served. But after we were done serving, if they broke us, they would fix us. And if they can't fix you, then they take care of you. That was the deal. That was the agreement that we all signed up for. Now, I'm happy if you think you've come through combat operations in Iraq or Afghanistan or wherever and believe that you're fine. Maybe you're like Sergeant Major, Sheriff of Baghdad, former Sergeant Major. I won't name him, but if you do a little bit of checking, you can find that fellow. He probably got PTSD. He says he doesn't, but he probably does. The guy's an asshole. Great. That doesn't mean he's a bad dude. That means he's brutally honest. That means he knows where he is and what he is. And he's managed to make it work. And he's managed to make it work apparently without having to have a VA pension. But now, a lot of people don't. Myself, I spent, we'll say a combined 20 years carrying out the mission of law enforcement, either in the civilian sector or in the United States Army. 20 years combined. 10 or 12 years active duty prior to that as an infantryman, assigned to headquarters company, 412, 199th Light Infantry, which eventually got reflagged and became part of 1st Armored Division, mechanized. So, yeah, I've been around a little bit. So let's say, for the sake of this discussion, we're going to take somebody with my level of training and education. I'm just a couple of credit hours short of having a doctorate in criminal psychology. Now, most of my experience, most of those credit hours would come from CLEP testing. I am a Missouri Post-Certified Domestic Violence Interventionalist. I have had both special weapons and tactics and advanced special weapons and tactics. I am a Missouri Post-Certified 3-gun firearms instructor. I am certified in PR-24, the expandable baton, mace, taser, less lethal. Of course, my primary and secondary duty weapons, as well as shotguns and subguns. I'm radar certified. I am a post-certified first responder, or was. I am a certified emergency medical dispatcher. Done a lot of things. So let's say, for the sake of the discussion, that I have a 100% rating for PTSD. Not a combined, a 100% for post-traumatic stress disorder. And 10 years ago, when I received that rating, it was deemed to be permanent and total, P&T, 100%. And under the current new administration, psychiatric conditions no longer warrant permanent and total ratings. They may or may not be static, as they put it now, but there are no more permanent and totals. So let's just explore that for a moment. There are no magic pills, there's no magic cures. So one day somebody decides, well, we're not going to rate PTSD anymore. So they take that pension away. So if it's a guy like me and I continue my treatment, what am I doing? What am I going to be taking? 60 milligrams of Wellbutrin a day, 120. Maybe it's a megadose. Maybe it's 300 milligrams of Wellbutrin a day. Maybe it's even more than that. Maybe it's 300 milligrams twice a day. So here we are. Tell me, what is a guy like me supposed to do? For the life of me, as a retired chief of police, I cannot imagine a law enforcement agency willing to put me on the street if I'm under psychiatric care for anxiety and depression, especially if I'm on medication for it. Come to think of it, I can't think of anybody that would. So there's one. Well, hey, you go to Walmart, right? Go to Walmart, go to work. Okay. Well, in Mr. Harrell's case, there's no understanding or no system in place to protect those individuals when they have bad days. Mr. Harrell, who was convicted of this BS theft of government funds because, as in the government's words, he had created this nonprofit and was functioning as their chief operating officer, blah, blah, blah. Well, the part that they leave out of that is, well, in functioning in those kinds of circumstances and surroundings, if you're having a bad day, you can stay home. And you know what I mean by a bad day? It's maybe slept 2 hours. The 2 hours that you slept were filled with night terrors and nightmares. Maybe today's not the day to go to Walmart and help some single mother try and find a bottle of gripe water for her crying infant who is teething. How many times do you suppose somebody like that could walk up to that PTSD suffering individual and that guy, you need to get that crying baby the heck away from me before I say or do something stupid kind of thing? How many times is that going to happen before he gets fired? I'm guessing just one. How many times you suppose he can call the boss, call store manager and say, hey, boss, I know I was on the schedule today, but I've only slept 2 hours in the last 3 days and I'm really in a dark place. How many times he going to be able to make that phone call and call in before he gets fired for absenteeism? I'm guessing maybe twice if he's lucky. See, that's the kind of system that those of us who are vets and that are reliant upon the VA, that's the system we've been put into. Wise man once said that he thought going to war would be the hardest thing he ever fought. And the truth is it's not. It's coming home. Ask anybody that knows me, and they'll tell you I can talk paint off of a wall, and good heavens, I like to talk. But the truth is those are some of the things that I do to deal with some of my demons. So, anyway, in the case of Mr. Harrell, he was subsequently sentenced, which was federally mandated because a jury of his alleged peers convicted him. However, I have a clear understanding that during jury selection, all of the individuals who were either being cared for by the Veterans Administration or were United States military veterans were stricken from the jury. So the only people that this fella got his jury of his peers were people who were not his peers. It was people from the average everyday workplace. And you know, most civilians in this world are terrified of people that admit to having PTSD. Scare them to death because they're afraid they're going to snap and make examples out of them. That's the world we live in. A wise man once asked me, what did I think was the cause of the sudden uptick in VA healthcare applications? And that fellow was quite shocked when I laughed and pointed out that when I first came into the military, everything was pretty well hands-on. But today we have armored fighting vehicles, and we have all of this, a little nod to my Vietnam veteran friends. When Iraq happened, we went to war with technically advanced weapons and equipment that actually worked. And can't you just see it now? 18-year-old Joe Snuffy, stationed in, we'll say he's been deployed forward, and he's at Joint Base Anaconda in the northern desert of Iraq. And one afternoon, he decides he wants to go to the PX at BIAP, Baghdad International Airport. So he gets in on the mail run, running from Al Asad down to BIAP. Now, the day before, he was out there on that run, except he was in an escort vehicle. And let's say he's the loader in an M1 Abrams main battle tank. And one of his responsibilities is he's responsible for firing the coaxial machine gun that's mounted in the turret. And his TC, or track commander, instructed him to open fire on this particular location. And in the heat of the moment, he didn't pay a whole lot of attention, but he did what he was told. The next day he drives through there and he realizes that there's, 50 little signs or 50 little crosses or whatever. And oh my God, he's now responsible for that. And it's not something that he saw on his little screen on his viewfinder in his turret. He's actually looking at it now. The blood stains are still on the street. It's there. Well, we do a real good job of teaching people how to take a human life with a little more thought than punching a hole in a paper target. But we fail miserably in teaching them how to sleep and live with it. Anyway. Hey guys, just a serious thought, and it's just common sense stuff. Nobody, out of all of the people that I know that are drawing VA pensions, The truth is most of the people I know deserve more than what they're getting. I can introduce you to a man who is literally an invalid. He's paralyzed from the nipple line down. He was blessed with a 70%. I can introduce you to a young man who has somewhere between 30 and 60 pounds of titanium and stainless steel in his back. 70%. Now, that particular gentleman, he's drawing an individual unemployability rating on top of that. But he can't hardly walk on the days that the barometric pressure drops and it's getting ready to rain. He's probably more apt and accomplished at forecasting rain than I am with my arthritic knees. 70%. And the truth is there are people like that all over. There are people that fall through the cracks because they don't answer the trick questions right. Oh, I can hear it now. They don't ask you trick questions. Sure they do. The hell they don't. You go to those meetings, you go to those doctor's appointments where they're supposed to rate you, and you walk in and they tell you, we need you to raise your arms up. Raise them as high as you can. Well, see, for civilians, that means you're going to go in there and raise them up. And if you're not a crybaby, you're going to raise them up until it causes you enough pain that you're just not going to go anymore. For people in the United States military that have been doing things that hurt for years, and they do it because, well, if they don't do it, who's going to do it? It's got to be done. So they do it anyway. That's how I kept falling through the cracks. Raise your arms up as high as you can. So I grit my teeth, take a deep breath, and go as far as I can absolutely go. And then they say, there's nothing wrong with you. When the truth is what they wanted you to do was raise your arms until it hurt. But they don't tell you that. That's one of those trick questions. And they absolutely do answer. So while I'm sure that there are people that are drawing VA benefits that really shouldn't have them, the truth is there's probably a hell of a lot more that should have them that don't get anything. And this business of you standing around, Mr. S, this business of you standing around running your mouth, all that does is verify my perfectly unqualified opinion that the vast majority of zeros in the United States military are just exactly that. And the bad lesson that you've learned is that the only way for you to succeed is standing on the back of somebody else. Hard lesson, but it's a fact. So, hey, maybe don't quite be so quick to judge. And if you're going to down the system that created the environment where, hey, if you fill out this paper, do this and this and this, you can get this benefit. If you want to down on those folks, then you need to down on the system that created the environment where they can do what they're doing and thrive. It shouldn't be so damn hard to get the things that were promised. We shouldn't have to fight our own people and our own government after we've spent a career fighting everybody else. This is the one place we're supposed to be safe. This is home. This is why I just couldn't get my head wrapped around that whole let's make America great again. America's always been great. Sometimes we screw up, but we have a long established history of when it comes down to brass tacks and when it really matters. stepping up and doing the right thing. Maybe it's about that time. Anyway, the new iteration of Coffee Talk. Thanks for watching. Have a wonderful afternoon. Please try and stay dry. It's raining here in central Missouri. Shout out to all of my friends and folks down in South Missouri. Miss you guys terribly. And hey, keep your chins up. Sometimes just being a better person is all it takes. Have a good day.